In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Catholicism, also known as the Roman Catholic Church, is the largest Christian church known to man. There are over 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, and it is the world's oldest running international institution. Since the 1960s, the church has gained a lot of unwanted attention over something not so holy: its treatment of children. In the last 50 years, there have been over 3,000 priests accused of sexual abuse, and the allegations continue to mount. The central governing body of the Catholic Church, known as the Holy See, has a rich history of covering up these scandals by moving priests accused of sexual abuse from parish to parish all over the world. While there have been over 3,000 priests accused of sexual abuse globally, the exact number of sexual abuse cases are innumerable and growing annually. Today we will find out more about the perpetrators of child abuse within the Catholic Church and the vast network of powerful individuals who wish to cover it up. This is Catholicism. So I actually grew up going to a Catholic high school, Christian Brothers, in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a all-boys Catholic school. And I wasn't the most religious person, but I knew some people that were pretty religious. They were pretty Catholic. They would always make jokes about molestation. Pretty common, the jokes. Everybody would joke around about priest such and such touched me. Very inappropriate things that boys make jokes about. Extreme things are usually funny to me, but these things shouldn't be a joke. Unfortunately, it is really common for young men in the Catholic Church to have been molested at some point in their life. I was in a very small, tight-knit community, and I did know a few kids that had got molested. And the reason that these kids joked about this kind of stuff is because it was really common. Back in the mid-2000s, there was a lot of these molestation cases coming out, and a lot of stuff was coming to the surface. The Catholic Church has really gone out of their way to cover up a lot of these sex crimes and a lot of this inappropriate behavior. So today's video, we're going to talk about the Catholic Church and how they've tried to cover up some of this stuff. And honestly, they haven't done a very good job of it. Years ago, Pope Paul VI reinstated the ban on contraception. The result was a full-blown crisis within the community. Tens of millions of Catholics went on to defy the Church's teaching. As time went on, the encyclical was used to justify the Church's anti-contraceptive view, which in turn led to the deaths of tens of thousands globally from HIV/AIDS. The Church applied pressure to healthcare providers in Africa, which meant the women in the developing world had no choice. Since then, over 100 million unplanned pregnancies have resulted from Pope Paul's decision. It is safe to say the Catholic Church directly contributed to not only overpopulation, but also an epidemic of disease the world had never seen before. Around the same time Pope Paul reinstated the contraception ban, the Catholic Church began to gain attention for reported sex abuse cases in the United States and Canada. By sheer number of allegations, the Church had its heyday during the 60s, as the number of allegations peaked during that time. The John Jay Report, which was released in 2004, details Catholic sex abuse from the 1950s on. The report determined that during the period from 1950 to 2002, a total of 10,667 individuals had made allegations of child abuse. Of these, the diocese had been able to identify 6,700 unique allegations against 4,392 clergy, within the United States alone. To put this into perspective, that is 5% of around 110,000 ordained clergy, priests, and deacons. Out of the 4,392 clergy accused, only 252 priests were convicted, and only 100 received prison sentences. That means over 4,000 clergy who were accused walked. So where did they go?
This is Bishop Van Heluwe before he was forced to admit he abused his nephew in the 70s and 80s. The Catholic Church in Belgium finally kicked him out this week. But the Vatican gave the 74-year-old safe passage to a French monastery, where he's supposed to be having spiritual and psychological treatment. Instead, he's been on Belgian television talking about abusing his nephew and trying to play it down.
It didn't go very far. You could call it a bit like a relationship. For my part, I have the strong impression that my nephew didn't object. It started as a sort of game, I would say. And to be honest, it never went further than that. I never used physical violence.
Roger Van Heluwe reveals he abused a second nephew, but denies he's a paedophile. When he resigned as a bishop, a church-backed inquiry was contacted by 500 victims of abuse by Belgian priests.
The parish transfers of abusive priests was a pastoral practice that added to the aggravation of the Catholic sex abuse cases. Offending clergy were moved from parish to parish, and in almost all cases, still had direct contact and control over young children. John Geoghegan was an American Roman Catholic priest and serial child rapist. In 1962, Geoghegan was assigned as an assistant pastor at Blessed Sacrament Parish in Saugus, Massachusetts. There were reports of the junior priest bringing young boys into his bedroom. In 1995, Geoghegan admitted to molesting 4 boys during his tenure in Saugus. Geoghegan was reassigned to multiple parishes throughout the 60s and throughout his career as a serial sex offender. Reports of his abuse went on from the early 1960s all the way up until the late 90s. At the end of his 30-year career in 6 different parishes, Geoghegan was accused of sexual abuse involving over 130 boys. After initially agreeing to a $30 million settlement with 86 of Geoghegan's victims, the Boston Archdiocese pulled out of it and in the end settled for a measly $10 million. Instead of reporting the incidents to the police, many dioceses directed the offending priests to seek psychological treatment and assessment. According to the John Jay report, nearly 40% of priests alleged to have committed sexual abuse participated in treatment programs. The more allegations a priest had, the more likely he was to participate in treatment. From a legal perspective, the most serious criticism, aside from the incidents of child sexual abuse themselves, was by the bishops, who failed to report accusations to the police. On January 31st, 2019, Roman Catholic leaders in Texas identified nearly 300 clergy members accused of sexually abusing children. Cardinal Daniel DiNardo, the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston, was quoted saying the reason they released the names was because it is right and just, and to offer healing and hope to those who have suffered. Personally, I find that very hard to believe, and if anything, a snide and disingenuous response. The Church hid these sex offenders for over 5 decades, shunned the victims publicly, and suddenly, leaders of the Church are beginning to pretend to care. When these sexual predators commit to abusing children, they not only harm them, but alter the courses of their lives forever. The Catholic Church should not be forgiven for this behavior. We live in a world where the public's attention span is only as long as the next controversy. The Catholic Church's role in hiding these monsters is a controversy that we can't afford to forget. Hey guys, making videos like this takes a lot of work, but I want to keep making them, and I want to make them a lot more entertaining. So if you could, please support my Patreon. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Thanks.